Okay, this is the ranking of the top 6 in college football. And this is really important because there's another storyline that we're going to talk about momentarily. Georgia's ranked number 1. Kirby Smart, number 1 in the country in recruiting. Carson Beck right now probably is the lead candidate, with apologies to Deion Sanders, quarterback son of Colorado. I think Carson Beck is probably the lead candidate for Heisman Trophy. Now, Georgia's got some problems off the field, wide receivers, running back injuries, players in trouble who've been suspended. But Georgia is number 1. Ohio State, Ryan Day, he's there. Brand new quarterback, brand new offensive coordinator. And Ryan Day's really struggled to beat Michigan. And there's a weird feel out there from Ohio State fans that I interact with that if this is not a championship season, they got a head coach in waiting, Chip Kelly. I don't want Chip Kelly to be a head coach again. What he did to UCLA, what he's done ever since he left Oregon, doesn't qualify him to be a head coach any longer anywhere. Chip Kelly is the offensive coordinator. Do have a new quarterback. Will Howard, transfer Kansas State, wrote every passing record at K-State through 48 touchdowns in the last 2 years. And they got Travion Henderson, who I think is one of the best big running backs in college football. So Ohio State is number 2. Oregon, number 3. Dan Lanning lost a lot of players, including Bo Nix, lost his running backs, lost his wide receivers, but they just replenished because they are one of the great recruiters on the West Coast. He gets a 6th-year transfer quarterback. Dylan Gabriel comes in, played at Central Florida, transferred to Oklahoma, and now is at Oregon. He's thrown for almost 14,900 yards in his career and 125 touchdowns. He's a really good left-handed quarterback. So Oregon, you got to pay attention. Texas, this to me is one of the strangest fits of all time, and it's really worked. Steve Sarkisian, who was from out here, played at BYU, head coach here in the Pac-12, was at the University of Washington, got fired, had alcohol issues, went into rehab. He was a man on the street, kind of resuscitated his career by going to Alabama to work for Nick Saban. Steve Sarkisian is the head coach at Texas, and he's had really good success, and he has just recruited the daylights out of the Midlands, the West Coast, and obviously the Lone Star State. He's got 2 quarterbacks. He's put them back on the map. And by the way, their mail is now being sent to the Southeastern Conference. So Texas, that is going to be worth watching. Not just what he's done, but what they're going to do where the program's landed. Alabama is sitting there. They are ranked 5. What will life be like after Nick Saban? Pretty good coach. A lot of surprise hire that he left the day after the season ended at Washington. Kalen DeBoer takes over at Alabama, has not missed a beat. And he's got a quarterback that nobody's talking about that should be talking about because he played well at the end of last season. Jalen Milroe, over 3,300 all-purpose yards, and he's a Heisman Trophy candidate, probably in the same sentence with Georgia's quarterback Carson Beck. So Bama is going to be good. And the wild card in the whole thing, connect the dots on all this, Ole Miss. Ole Miss, coached by the guy that USC and the Raiders fired, Lane Kiffin. Ole Miss, dominant recruiting. Ole Miss, hauling in guys in the transfer portal all the time. He's got a 4th-year starting quarterback who's a former Trojan, Jackson Dart. He had almost 4,000 all-purpose yards last season. Had a good season last year, faltered at the end, didn't get there in the SEC championship game. But all these guys are back, and all these newcomers from the portal are back. And how's this for a rumor? This is going to be the final fall for Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. Now, there's no Pac-12 for him to go back to. Rumor is he'll cross the state line if he has a banner season, and he'll go to the NFL. He'll go to the New Orleans Saints, who have a coach that's on the hot seat, and the Saints have not done well. So there's all kinds of storylines down there at Ole Miss. So we'll keep an eye on that. So, John, those are the top 6. Anybody else would have to be a surprise to put themselves in the upper echelon. And the one common denominator, they all got hired guns at quarterback. Your turn.
My turn. Well, it's nice to see Ole Miss in that list. That was the surprise. Old Lane Kiffin. And Lane Kiffin gets a lot of crap from fans, because he's had a checkered past.
Yeah.
But he still seems to always get a break. He gets the benefit of the doubt.
Lands on his feet.
That's a good way to put it. He lands on his feet like a cat with 9 lives. But I just remember when he was the head coach of the Raiders, he was like in his early 30s.
Sure.
He was probably younger than a lot of the players then.
Exactly.
But then I look at these other teams. Alabama is going to be Alabama. The Oregon quarterback, Dylan Gabriel, I watched a lot of his play because my son finished up his college at Oklahoma. And so we went to the games, and Gabriel took over when Caleb Williams went to USC. He's a good quarterback. He can throw. He reminds you of Steve Young as a lefty, and he's a little bit stocky. He's not a tall guy. He's maybe only 5'11", 6 foot, but I think Oregon should really like him.
And they recruit, and they get all these transfers. They put so many skilled people around Bo Nix last year, and Bo Nix made all the plays. Gabriel has grown into it. Initially, when he was at Central Florida, he was a gunner and a wild arm and threw picks. In Oklahoma, they refined his game. So he's got 1 year left, and he's going to be with the Oregon Ducks. So those are the marquee teams. If you got a comment about Heisman Trophy candidates, life after Nick Saban at Bama, feel free, jump into the fans forum, looking for college football fans to participate.